What is the dollar milkshake theory, and sounds like kind of a funny name, and what does it have to do with the current economic situation that we're in late 2022? All right, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about kind of a funny sounding economic theory, which I actually happen to believe makes a lot of sense. It is called the dollar milkshake theory. It really doesn't have anything to do with food, but if you think of a milkshake as being blended, whipped, like in a blender, that's sort of the image that you want to think about. All right. So the idea, though, is that if we're looking at our current situation where the dollar keeps getting stronger and stronger, what does that mean? It means, the price of any currency is not absolute. It's relative to every other currency. So, for example, a dollar is strong because it just simply has more buying power relative to something else. All currency exchanges are relative. So when one goes up, it just means that it's gone up relative to something else. More in the context of exchange rates. So for the last couple of months, as we've kind of started to deal with this situation of inflation and a lot of economic uncertainty and raising interest rates, the dollar continues to get strong. And it was kind of contrary to this theory that I even had for a long time that, wait, if the U.S. has been printing tons of money, all this money came into the economy from COVID, stimulus, PPP money, right? Trillions of dollars entered the system very, very quickly. That's going to lead to inflation because now you have more money chasing fewer goods. Wouldn't that ultimately weaken the dollar because now it's has less buying power? But instead, we've seen this strange situation where the dollar keeps getting stronger. How does that make any sense? Well, if you look at the dollar milkshake theory, it will. So the dollar has gotten stronger because of its relationship with other currencies. It hasn't gotten stronger for its ability to buy stuff within the U.S. Like, we as Americans are still dealing with inflation. I see at the store prices have gotten higher, so my dollar hasn't gotten stronger at the grocery store. However, relative to other countries, it has. And this is because the dollar is still considered the most stable currency in the world. So if you're in another country, like Sri Lanka, for example, and you're scared that inflation is going to get out of hand, and you have a lot of money, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep it in the Sri Lankan currency, or are you going to exchange it into dollars where you're more confident it will hold its value? So what's happened is all these countries, citizens and banks even, who are nervous that their local currency is losing its value, are swapping and buying dollars. They also have a situation where we're still doing a lot of trade in dollars. Like, most major commodities on the global exchange are paid for in dollars. So there's continual demand for dollars. So if, again, I'll go back to Sri Lanka, for example. Let's say I have to buy widgets for my people, and the place I buy widgets from, I have to pay in dollars. Even though my I have my own native currency, I'm still going to have to exchange those for dollars. So that's another way there's constant demand for dollars. And then a lot of countries sell, they borrow money. They go to that euro dollar market. So I'll put a link in the video for my euro dollar link. That is a large marketplace where people are buying, lending and borrowing money, and it's done in dollars. So there's just a bunch of scenarios where countries have to play with dollars, and it creates this continuous demand for dollars, which drives it up. And then it creates this spiral effect where now my currency is getting weaker and the dollar is getting stronger. I get more scared and I put more of my money in dollars, and then it gets more and more, and then it keeps amplifying the situation. Now, the actual milkshake theory analogy comes from imagining all of these countries dumping their money into this bucket, and then the dollar's sucking them up through a straw. And this was coined by an economist or finance guy named Brent Johnson of Santiago Capital. He came up with this theory a couple of years ago, and has talked about it publicly, and it's sort of playing out now. Now, the nervousness or anxiety around this thesis is that it's not good for global trade for the dollar to be so strong, because it means that, first of all, nobody outside the U.S. can afford to buy U.S. products. Like if I make some product that I export globally, my product is now so expensive everywhere else, it's going to kill my business. There's also situations where these countries that have to pay their debt in dollars, or they have to buy energy in dollars, or there's things that they have to pay for, they're going to become so expensive, countries are going to start to go bankrupt. It's called sovereign debt crisis. Like they literally can't make the payments on their money, and they either have to go borrow more money, and interest rates are very high now, so that's even more of a unpleasant situation, or they end up going broke and having to get bailed out by the IMF. So it creates a bad problem when the dollar gets so strong. So, I mean, there are some random benefits, like, really strong dollar means that you can pay for things in dollars very inexpensively. Like you go to Europe right now and it would be quite a deal. I don't think that the benefits of that are going to nearly outweigh all of the negative consequences. So what ends up happening is that all these things that are pumping up the dollar, because there's constant demand, if all those things fell apart because they went into bankruptcy, this balloon that's being pumped up eventually deflates. Because the dollar's pumped up with a continuous air pump. It's sort of this dollar milkshake theory, is that the milk's getting sucked up the straw, but it's staying inflated with this continuous pressurized pump. If you turn off that pressure, the bubble deflates. So it's unlikely that this dollar milkshake theory would last forever. So a couple just points to remember is that exchange rates with currencies are always relative. Especially in this milkshake theory concept, and that a fast rising dollar creates problems for lots of countries. It's not good for the global economy at all. If you are importing things or you have debt that you have to service, it gets very, very expensive. And at some point it could break. And that's sort of the fear around the bubble idea, which is why a lot of people are holding dollars now, but be aware that there could come a point where you don't want to be in dollars anymore, because we get to that breaking point where countries start to go into default. So that is the dollar milkshake theory. Hope this was a clear explanation. I'll put some links in the comments for some more things to read about this or watch about this. And if you would like to subscribe to our 2 Steps Ahead newsletter, where we dig in deep to a lot of these concepts so that you can make some decisions about protecting your own wealth, the link to that's in the comments as well. All right, we'll see you in the next one.